I'm starting inheritance games today. This is part 1 like the inheritance games. Let's start. When I was a kid, my mom constantly invented games. The quiet game, the who can make their cookie last longer game, a perennial favorite, the marshmallow game, involving eating marshmallows while wearing puffy Goodwin jacket indoors to avoid turning on the heat. The flashlight game was that we played when the electricity went out. We never walked anywhere we raced. The floor was nearly always lava. The primary purpose of pillow was building forts. Our longest lasting game was called I Have a Secret because my mom said that everyone should always have at least one. Some days she guessed mine, some days she didn't. We played every week, right up until I was 15 and one of her secrets landed her in the hospital. The next thing I knew, she was gone. Your move, princess, a gravity walls dragged me back to the present. I don't have all day. Out of inside, I retorted, sliding into of my nights into place. Your move, old man. Harry called at me. I don't know how old he was really, and I had no idea how it come to be homeless and living in the park where we played chess each morning. I did know that he was a formidable opponent. He grumbled, eyeing the board, are a horrible person. 3 moves later, I had him checkmate. You know what that means, Harry. He gave me a dirty look. I have let you buy me breakfast. Those were the terms of our lasting standing bet. When I won, he couldn't turn down the free meal. To my credit, I only gloated a little. It's good to be queen. I made it to school on time, but barely. I had a habit of cutting things close. I walked the same tightrope with my grade. How little effort could I put in and still get an A? I wasn't lazy, I was practical. Picking up an extra shift was worth trading a 98 for a 92. I was in the middle of drafting an English paper in Spanish class when I was called at the office. Girls like me were supposed to be invisible. We didn't get someone for sit downs when the principal. We made exactly as much trouble as we could afford to make, which in my case was none. Every Principal Altman's greeting was not what one would call warm. Have a seat, I said. He folded his hands on the desk between us. I assume you know why you are here. Unless this was about the weekly poker game I had been running in the parking lot to finance Harry's breakfast and sometimes my own. I had no idea what I'd done to draw the administration's attention. Sorry, I said, trying to sound sufficiently mad, but I don't. Principal Altman let me sit with my response for a moment, then presented me with a stapled pack of paper. This is the physics test you took yesterday. Okay, I said. That wasn't the response he was looking for, but it was all I had. For once, I had actually studied. I couldn't imagine I had done badly enough to merit intervention. Mr. Yates credit the test. Very yours, very yours was the only perfect school grade. I said in a deliberate effort to keep myself from saying okay again. Not great, young lady. Mr. Yates intentionally creates exam that challenges the abilities of his students. In 20 years, he never given a perfect score. Do you see the problem? I couldn't quite bite back my instinctive reply. A teacher who designs tests most of his students can pass. Mr. Altman narrowed his eyes. You are a good student, a very quite good, given your circumstances, but you don't exactly have a history of setting the cow. That was fair. So why did I feel like he'd gut punched me? I am not without sympathy for your situation, Principal Altman continued, but I need you to be straight with me here. He looked his eyes onto mine. Where you were aware that Mr. Yates kept copies of all his exams on the cloud. He thought I'd cheated. He was sitting there staring me down, and I had never felt less seen. I'd like to help you, Avery. You have done extremely well. Even the hand life has dealt you. I would have had to see any plans you might have for the future derailed. Any plans I might have, I repeated. If I had a different last name, if I had a dad who was a dentist and a mom who stayed home, he wouldn't have acted like the future was something I might have thought about. I am a junior, I gritted out. I'll graduate next year with at least 2 semesters worth of college credit. My test My test score should put me in scholarship contention at the UConn, which has one of the top actuarial science program in the country. Mr. Altman from actuarial science statistical risk assessment. It was the closest I could come to double majoring in poker and math. Besides, it was one of the most employable majors in the planet. Are you a fan of calculated risk, Mrs. Grimes? Like cheating, I couldn't let myself get any angrier. Instead, I pictured myself playing chess. I marked out the moves in my mind. Girls like me didn't get to explode. I didn't cheat. I said calmly, I studied. I scraped together time in other classes between shifts later at the night. Then I should have stayed up, knowing that Mr. Yates was infamous for giving impossible tests had made me want to redefine possible. For once, instead of seeing how close I could cut it, I wanted to see how far I could go. And this was what I got for my effort. Because girls like me didn't ace impossible exams, I'll take the test again. I said, trying not to sound furious or worse, wounded. I'll get the same grade again. And what would you say if I told you that Mr. Date had prepared a new exam, all new questions, every bit as difficult as the first? I didn't even hesitate. I'll take it. That can be arranged tomorrow during third period, but I have to warn you that this will go significantly better for you if now. Mr. Altman stared at me. Excuse me, forget sounding me, forget being invisible. I want to take the new exam right here in your office right now. Rough day, Libby asked. My sister was 7 years older than me and way too empathetic for her own good or mine. I am fine, I replied, recounting my trip to Altman's. I am fine, I replied, recounting my trip to Altman's office would only have worried her, and until Mr. Yates graded my second test, there was nothing anyone could do. I changed the subject. Tips were good tonight. How good? Libby's sense of style resided somewhere between punk and goth, but personality wise, she was the kind of eternal optimist who believed $100 tip was always just around the corner at a hole in the wall dinner where most entries cost $6.99. I pressed a wad of crumpled singles into her hand, good enough to help make rent. Libby tried to hand the money back, but I moved out of reach before she could. I will throw this cash at you, she warned sternly. I shrugged, I dodged. You are impossible. Libby grudgingly put the money away, produced a muffin tin out of nowhere, and fixed me with a look. You will accept this muffin to make it up to me. Yes, ma'am. I went to take it from her outstretched hand, but then I looked past her to the counter and realized she'd baked more than muffins. There were also cupcakes. I felt my stomach plummet. Oh no, Liv, it's not what you think, Libby promised. She was an apology cupcake baker, a guilty cupcake baker. Please don't be mad at me, cupcake baker. Not what I think, I repeatedly softly. So he's not moving back yet. It's going to be different this time, Libby promised. At the cupcakes are chocolate. I heard it. It's never going to be different, I said. But if I'd been capable of making her believe that, she'd have believed it already. Right on cue, Libby's on again, off again boyfriend who had a fondness of punching walls and extolling his own virtues for not punching Libby slowly. He snaggled a cupcake off the counter and let his gaze rake over me. Hey, hey, chill bit. Drake, Libby said. I am kidding, Drake smiled. You know I am kidding, Libby, mine. You and your sister just need to learn how to take a joke. 1 minute in and he was already making us the problem. This is not healthy, I told Libby. He didn't wanted her to take me in, and he'd never stop punishing her for it. This is not your apartment, Drake shot back. Evelyn is my sister, Libby instead. Our sister, Drake corrected, and then he smiled again, joking. He wasn't, but also wasn't wrong. Libby and I shared an absent father but had different moms. We'd only seen each other once or twice a year growing up. No one had expected her to take custody of me 2 years earlier. She was young, she was barely scraping by, but she was Libby. Loving people was what she did. If Drake's staying here, I told her quietly, then I am not. Libby picked up a cupcake and cradled her hand. I am doing the best I can, Avery. She was people pleaser. Drake liked putting her in the middle. He used me to hurt her. I couldn't just wait around for the day he stopped punching walls. If you need me, I told Libby, I'll be living in my car. My ancient Pontiac was a piece of junk, but at least the heater worked. Mostly I parked at the dinner around the back where no one would see me. Libby texted, but I couldn't bring myself to text back. So I ended up just staring at my phone. Instead, the screen was cracked. My data plan was practically non-existent, so I couldn't go online. But I did have unlimited text. Beside Libby, there was exactly one person in my life worth texting. I kept my message to Max short and sweet. You know who is back. There was no immediate response. Max's parents were big on phone free time and confiscated hers frequently. They were also infamous for intermittently monitoring her messages, which was why I hadn't named Drake and wouldn't type a word about where I was spending the night. Neither the Liu family nor my social worker needed to know what I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Setting my phone down, I glanced at my backpack in the passenger seat but decided that the rest of my homework couldn't wait for morning. I laid my seat back and closed my eyes but couldn't sleep. So I reached into the glove box and retrieved the only thing of value that my mother had left me, a stack of postcards, dozens of them, dozens of places we had planned to go together. Hawaii, New Zealand, Machu Picchu, staring at each of the pictures in turn, imagine myself anywhere but here, Tokyo, Bali, Greece. I wasn't sure how long I'd been lost in thought when my phone beeped. I picked it up and greeted by Max's response to my message about Drake. The mother fact. And then a moment later, are you okay? Max had moved away the summer after 8th grade. Most of our communication was written and she refused to write curse words lest her parents see them. So she got creative. I am fine, I wrote back, and that was all the impetus she needed to unleash her righteous fury on my behalf. That chip head can go straight to hell and eat a bag of. A second later, my phone rang. Are you really okay? Max asked when I answered. I looked back down at my postcard in my lap and the muscles in my throat tightened. I would make it through high school. I'd apply for every scholarship I qualified for. I'd get a marketable degree that allowed me to work remotely and paid me well. I'd travel the world. I let out a long, jagged breath and then answered Max's question. You know me, Maxine, I am always land on my feet. The next day, I paid a price for sleeping in my car. My whole body ached, and I had to shower after gym because paper towels in the bathroom at the dinner could only go as far. So I didn't have time to dry my hair, so I arrived at my next class sopping wet. I wasn't my best look, but I had gone to school with the same kids my whole life. I was wallpaper. No one was looking. Romeo and Juliet is littered with proverbs, small pathy bits of wisdom that make a statement about the way the world and human nature work. My English teacher was young and earnest, and I deeply suspected she had too much coffee. Let's take a step back from Shakespeare. Who can give me an example of everyday proverb? Beggars can be choosers. I thought, my head pounding and water droplets dripping down my back. Necessity is the mother of invention. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride. The door to the classroom opened and office eyed waited for the teachers to look at her, then announced loudly enough for the whole class to hear. Avery Graham is wanted in the office. I took that to mean that someone had graded my test. I knew better than to expect an apology, but I also wasn't expecting Mr. Altman to meet me in his secretary's desk. In meanwhile, he had just had a visit from the Pope. Avery, an alarm went off in the back of my head because no one was ever had that glad to see me. Right this way, he opened the door to his office, and I caught sight of a familiar neon blue ponytail inside. Libby, I said. She was wearing skull print scrubs and no makeup, both of which suggested she had come straight from work in the middle of shift. Orderlies at assisted living facilities couldn't just walk out in the middle of shifts. Not useless, something was wrong, is that. I couldn't make myself finish the question. Your father is fine. The voice that issued the statement didn't belong to Libby or Principal Altman. My head whipped up and I looked past my sister. The chair behind the principal desk was occupied by a guy not much older than me. What is going on here? He was wearing a suit. He looked like the kind of person who should have had an uh, entourage. As of yesterday, he continued, his low, rich voice measured and precise. Ricky Grimes was alive, well and swiftly passed out in a motel room in Michigan, an hour outside of Detroit. I tried not to stare at him and failed. Light hair, pale eyes, features sharp enough to cut rocks. How could you possibly know that? I demanded. I didn't even know where my deadbeat father was. How could he? The boy in the suit didn't answer my question. Instead, he arched an eyebrow. Principal Altman, he said, if you could give us a moment. The principal opened his mouth, presumably to object to being removed from his own office, but that the boy's eyebrow lifted higher. I believe we had an agreement. Altman cleared the throat, of course, and just like that, he turned and walked out the door. It closed behind him, and I resumed openly staring at the boy who banished him. You asked how I know where your father is. His eyes were the same color as his suit, grey, burning, or silver. It would be best for the moment for you to just assume that I know everything. His voice would have been pleasant to listen to if it weren't for the words. A guy who thinks he knows everything, I muttered, that's new. A girl with a razor sharp tongue, he returned, silver eyes focused on mine, the end of his lips ticking upward. Who are you? I asked. And what do you want with me? Something inside me added, what do you want with me? All I wanted, he said, is to deliver a message for a reason I couldn't quite pinpoint. My heart started beating faster, one that has proven rather difficult to send via traditional means. This might be my fault, Libby volunteered sheepishly beside me. What might be your fault? I turned to look on her, grateful for an excuse to look away from grey as and fighting the urge to glance back. The first thing you need to know, Levy said, honestly as anyone wearing skull print cups that had ever said anything, is that I had no idea the letters were real. What letters? I asked. I was the only person in the room who didn't know what was going on here. I couldn't shake the feeling that not knowing was a liability, like standing on train tracks but not knowing which direction the train was coming from. The letters, the boy in the suit had said, his wife wrapping around me, that my grandfather's attorneys have been sending certified mail to your residence for the better parts of 3 weeks. I thought they were a scam, Libby told me. I assure you, the boy replied skillfully, they are not. I know better than to put any confidence in the assurance of good-looking guys. Let me start again. He folded his hand and on the desk between us, the thumb of his right hand lightly circling the cuff link in his left wrist. My name is Grayson Hathorne. I am here on behalf of McNamara, Ortega and Jones, a Dallas-based law firm representing my grandfather's estate. Grayson's pale eyes met mine. My grandfather passed away earlier this month. A weighty pause. His name was Tabis Hawthorne. Grayson studied my reaction, or more accurately, the lack thereof. Does that name mean anything to you? The sensation of standing on train tracks was back. No, I said, should it? My grandfather was a very wealthy man, Grams, and it appears that along with our family and people who worked for him for years, you have been named in his will. I heard the word but couldn't process them. His what? His will. Grayson repeated, a slight smile crossing his lip. I don't know what he left you exactly, but your presence is required at the will's reading. We have been postponing it for weeks. I was an intelligent person, but Grayson Hawthorne might as well have been speaking Swedish. Why would your grandfather leave anything to me? I asked. Grayson stood. That's the question of the hour, isn't it? He stepped out from behind the desk and suddenly I knew exactly what direction the train was coming from. I have taken the liberty of making travel arrangements on your behalf. This wasn't an invitation. It was summons. What makes you think? I started to say, but Libby cut me off. Great, she said, giving me a healthy side eye. Grayson smiled. I'll give you a moment. His eyes lingered on mine to long for comfort, and then, without another word, he strode out the door. Libby and I were silent for a full 5 seconds after he was gone. Don't take this wrong way, she whispered finally, but I think he might be God. I snorted. He certainly thinks. It was easier to ignore the effect he had on me now that he was gone. What kind of person had self-assurance that absolute? It was there in every aspect of his posture, and what choice in every interaction. Power was as much as fact of life for this guy as gravity. The world bent to this will of Grayson Hawthorne. What money couldn't buy him, those eyes probably did. Starting from the beginning, I told Libby and don't leave anything out. She fidgeted with the inky black tips of her blue ponytail. A couple of weeks ago, we started getting these letters addressed to you. Care of me. They said that you had inherited money, gave us a number to call. I thought they were a scam like one of those emails that claims to be from a foreign teams. Why would this Tobias Hawthorne, a man I have never met, never even heard of, put me in his will? I asked. I don't know, Libby said, but that she gestured in the direction Grayson had gone. Is not a scam. Did you see the way he dealt with Principal Altman? What do you think their agreement was, a bribe or a threat? Both pushing down the response. I pulled out my phone and connected to the school's Wi-Fi. One internet search for Tobias Hawthorne later. Two of us were reading a news headline. Noted philanthropist dies at 78. Do you know what philanthropist means? Libby asked me seriously. It means rich. It means someone who gives to charity. I corrected her. So rich, Libby gave me a look. What if you are charity? They wouldn't send the guy's Grayson to get you if he had just left you a few $100s. You must be talking thousands. You could travel every or put it toward college or buy a better car. I could feel my heart starting to beat faster again. Why would a total stranger leave me anything? I reiterated, resisting the urge to daydream even for a second, because if I started, I wasn't sure I could stop. Maybe he knew your mom, Libby suggested. I don't know, but I do know that you need to go to the reading of that will. I can't just take off, I told her. Neither can you. We'd both miss work, I'd miss class, and yet, if nothing else, a trip would get Libby away from Drake, at least temporarily. And if this is real, it was already getting harder not to think about the possibilities. My shifts are covered for the next 2 days, Libby informed me. I made some calls and so are yours. She reached for my hand. Come on, wouldn't be nice to take a trip, just you and me? She squeezed my hand, and after a moment I squeezed back. Where exactly is the reading of the will? Texas, Libby grinned, and they didn't just book our tickets, they booked them first class. I'd never flown before. Looking down from 7,000 feet, I could imagine myself going further than Texas, Paris, Bali, Machu Picchu. Those had always been some day trips, but now beside me, Libby was in heaven, sipping on a complimentary cocktail. Picture time, she declared. Smoosh in and hold up your warm nuts. On the other side of the aisle, a lady shot Libby a disapproving look. I wasn't sure whether the target of her disapproval was Libby's hair, the camo print jacket she had changed into when she ditched her scrub, her metal-studded choker, the selfie she was attempting to take, or the volume with which she just said the phrase "worn nuts." Erupting my tears, look, I leaned toward my sister and raised my warm nuts high. Libby laid her head on my shoulder and snapped the pic. She turned the phone to show me. I'll send it to you when we land. The smile on her face wavered just for a second. Don't put it online, okay? Greg doesn't know where you are, does he? I beat back the urge to remind her that she was allowed to have a life. I didn't want to argue. I won't. That wasn't any big sacrifice on my part. I had social media accounts, but I mostly used them to DMX. And speaking of, I pulled my phone out. I put it on airplane mode, which meant no texting, but first class offered free Wi-Fi. I sent Max a quick update on what happened, then spent the rest of the flight obsessively reading up on Tobias Hawthorne. He had made his money in oil, then diversified. I expect based on the Grayson had said his grandfather was a wealthy man, and the newspaper use of the word philanthropist that he was some kind of millionaire. I was wrong. Tobias Hawthorne wasn't just wealthy or well off. There weren't any polite terms for what Tobias Hawthorne was, other than really insert expletive of your choice. Here, filthy rich, millions with a B and plural. He was the ninth richest person in the United States and the richest man in the state of Texas. $46.2 billion. That was his net worth as far as number went. It didn't even sound real. Eventually, I stopped wondering why a man I'd never met would have left me something, and started wondering how much. Max Masa messaged me right before landing. Are you with me? I grinned. No, I am legit on a plane to Texas right now, getting ready to land. Max's only response was, holy shit. A dark haired woman in a all-white power suit met Libby and me the second we stepped past security. Miss Grams, she nodded to me, then to Libby, and she added on a second identical greeting, Miss Grams. She turned, expecting us to follow. To my chagrin, we both did. I am Elisa Ortega, she said, from McNamara, Ortega and Jones. Another pause, then she cast a sideways glance at me. You are very hard young woman to get a hold of. I struggled. I live in my car. She doesn't live there. Libby said quickly. Tell her you don't. We are glad you could make it. Elisa Ortega from McNamara, Ortega and Jones didn't wait for me to tell her anything. I had the sense that my half of the conversation was perfectly. During your time in Texas, you are to consider yourself guests of the Hawthorne family. I'll be your liaison to the firm. Anything you need while you are here, come to me. Don't lawyers bill by the hour? I thought. How much was the personal pickup costing the Hawthorne family? I didn't even consider the option that this woman might not be a lawyer. She looked to me in her late 20s. Talking to her gave me the face feeling as talking to Grayson Hawthorne. She was someone. Is there anything I can do for you? Elisa Ortega asked, striding toward an automatic door, her pace not slowing at all when it seemed like the door might not open in time. I waited until I had made sure she wasn't going to run smack into the glass before I replied, how about some information? You'll have to be a bit more specific. Do you know what's in the will? I asked. I do not. She gestured to a black sedan idling near the curb. She opened the back door for me. I slid in and Libby followed suit. Elisa sat in the front passenger seat. The driver's seat was already occupied. I tried to see the driver but couldn't make out much of his face. We will find out what's in the will soon enough, Elisa said, the words as crisp and neat as the devil to ruin it white suit. We all will. The reading is scheduled for shortly after your arrival at Hawthorne House. Not the Hawthorne's house, just Hawthorne House, like it was some kind of English manor complete with name. Is that where we'll be staying? Libby asked. Hawthorne House. Our return tickets has been booked for tomorrow. We'll pack for one overnight. You will have your pick of bedrooms, Elisa assured us. Mr. Hawthorne bought the land. The house is built on more than 50 years ago and spent every one of those years studying on to the architecture marvel he built there. I have lost track of the total number of bedrooms, but it's upward of 30. Hawthorne House is quite something. This was the information we had gotten out of her yet. I presume my luck. I am guessing Mr. Hawthorne was quite something too. Good guess, Elisa said. She glanced back at me. Mr. Hawthorne was fond of good guessers. An airy feeling washed over me then, almost like a premotion. Is that why he chose me? How well did you know him? Libby asked beside me. My father has been Tobias Hawthorne's attorney since before I was born. Elisa Ortega wasn't power talking now. Her voice was soft. I spent a lot of times at Hawthorne House growing up. I wasn't just a client to her. I thought, do you have any idea why I'm here? I asked. Why he'd leave me anything at all? Are you the well-saving type? Elisa asked, like that was a perfectly ordinary question. No. Ever had your life ruined by someone with the last name Hawthorne? Elisa continued. I stared at her, then managed to answer more confidently this time. No. Elisa smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Lucky you. Hawthorne House sat on a hill, massive, sprawling. It looked like a castle, more suited to royalty than ranch country. There were half dozen cars parked out front and one beat-up motorcycle that looked like it should be dismantled and sold for parts. Elisa eyed the bike. Looks like Nash made it home. Nash, Libby asked, the oldest Hawthorne grandson. Elisa replied, tearing her gaze from the motorcycle and staring up to the castle. There are four of them total, four grandsons. I couldn't pick my mind from going back to the one Hawthorne's I had already made. Grayson, the perfectly tailored suit, the silvery grey eyes, the arrogance in the way he told me to assume he knew everything. Elisa gave me a knowing look. Take it from somewhere who is both been there and done that. Never lose your heart to a Hawthorne. Don't worry, I told her, as annoyed with her assumption as I was with the fact that she had been able to see any trace of my thoughts on my face. I kept mine under lock and key. The foyer was bigger than some houses, easily 1,000 square feet. Like the person who had built it was afraid that the entryway might have to double as a place to host balls.